We can go a little bit further into some, let's see. Oh, yes, working with strings. So I'm going to just do this really quickly. So we have make a new file, and we're going to do a few interesting things so we can actually work with some stuff, and it'll be an allusion to the upcoming lecture on regular expressions. And so we can start with this, ex4.rb. So let's say we need to make a file, right? We'll make another file. We'll call it song data. And in here, I already have this created in a different file, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that all over. So song data is the name of some MP3, a time, the length in minutes and seconds, the length of the song, the artist, and the name of the song, the title. All right, so now that we know that, we go back in here. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and read that data in and then manipulate the lines of data. And so one of the things we're going to do is first we need to create a file. So we say file.open. A lot of this stuff won't make any sense of why I'm doing or what I'm doing, but I'll try to talk about it, and then we'll actually see how this stuff works later on in a little more detail. So I say file.open, and I give the name songdata.text, and then we call it .each. The .each method is an iterator. Will iterate when it's a file, iterates each line of the text. And so this gives us the capability to create a block. And so all blocks, for the most part, start with the word do. And then we have a variable. Now this is if we use the multi-line form. There's a secondary form of blocks that we'll talk about a little bit later today. So then I get the capability to have a variable. And this variable, in this case, represents a given line from the file, which is the reason I call it line. So whenever we create a block, we always need to end the block with the end keyword. So that's the pair. It's do end. And then what we're going to do is we're going to read in that line, and we're going to say line.chomp. All right, so we're going to chomp off the end of it, right? Because we don't want that new line character. But then we're going to split that string returned from chomp, and we're going to split on a regular expression. And this regular expression is going to, now I need to go back and take a look at this. We want to split on and get rid of all the white space, and so we're splitting on the white space, vertical bar white space. But the definition of the white space between surrounding the vertical bar changes for each one of these lines. So what we want to do is we want to be able to deal with that correctly. And so initially, in order to do that, we use /s. That means white space. Star means 0 more spaces in this case. A vertical bar. So vertical bars are special characters inside of regular expressions, so we need to escape it. So vertical bar, and then the same thing. Space, star, and then we end. So pattern. So regular expression pattern is it's a literal is defined by using by a pattern specified between two slashes. So this gives us the capability to now perform that split correctly. Now we need to assign. So if we go back and look at our song data, what that will do is break it into 4 different pieces of information: the name of the file, the time, the artist, and the title of the song. So we can actually, in parallel, assign all those at the same time by saying file, length, name, and title. And so then we can actually use this. So let's say we just want to print some of that information out, right? So file, and then we'll give it the file, and maybe we want to say what is the length in parentheses, right? And then we'll print out the next line, maybe move it over by artist, and then name, and then we'll do one more line, which is the title of the song. And then we'll give it a space between each one. So we do that, and we run this. We should be able to see puts Ruby ex4rb, and we see that we get everything we want except for the extra new line. But anyway, I'm not too worried about that right now. So it gave us everything we wanted to see, so that's all good and everything. Now maybe what we want to do is we want to notice that there is this extra long space here between these. So I'm going to change this up. So maybe what we want to do is we don't want to see like maybe the file information. So let's change this up to be instead just a single line, song, and then title, double dash, the name, the artist, space, and then in parentheses the length of the file. Alright, that should be good. We run that again just to be sure. It gives us those three things, but then we start seeing that extra spacing that we were using to make everything look all pretty in the file, right, makes it look pretty. We don't want that. So we got rid of the stuff after the name, right, before that, after the name of the file, before the vertical bar, but we're not getting rid of the stuff in between artist names. And so let's go ahead and fix that. So we can do that really easily. Because we're only dealing with name, we can say name.squeeze, right? And so the squeeze function, what it does is it takes repeating characters, whatever character we give it, which in this case is the space, and what it's going to do is squeeze those down to a single character. And so, furthermore, we use the exclamation point. There's two different versions of this. There's one with an exclamation point and one without. The one with the exclamation point says, we're going to apply this to the actual object that we are calling this on, as opposed to applying it and returning the modified version as a new object. And so now that we've done that, we run it, and we can actually see what happened. And lo and behold, it has squeezed that down, so now we don't have that ugly looking extra space in there. So one final modification we can make is perhaps we want to go ahead and only display the length of this in seconds rather than in minutes : seconds. But if we think about this, length comes in as a string, right? So if we were to, before we do this, we'll print out length.class. Right, just so we can verify. Go ahead and run this, and we can, oh, excuse me, length doesn't exist there, so let's go ahead and do that up here. And so we see length.class is a string, right? So we don't want to deal with that. We need a number. So the first thing we want to do is we need to extract the minutes and the seconds out. And so we can do that by saying length.scan. And this takes in another regular expression, or a string actually, if we really want to. And we're going to use a regular expression. And the reason we're going to do that is because we can use the class D, the /D, which looks for any digit. And we can look for one or more of those. And so every time we find one of those, and we know there's going to be only two, we can then assign those to, the first one is the number of minutes, and the second one is the number of seconds. And now we have the capability to extract it out. We could easily have split it on. So another way we could have done this, and I'll show that really quick, is to say length.split. We can just say look for this string. We're going to split on the colon, right? And that will return also. So we say min sex, and then but that's going to return two strings. So that's not going to really help us. We want actual digits, right? And regardless, it's not going to help us either way. So let's just try it this way first. We'll come back to the regular expression one. And instead of using length here, what we'll say is mins.2i, 2_i, which converts it to an integer, multiply it by 60, and then add that to sex.2i. And then we can verify this worked correctly by running it. And unfortunately, I get a undefined local variable, which, oh, so that does give us a problem. So, so min is so length.split actually returns an array. So that's not going to do everything we want to. There is a way to do it, which would be to say, to do this by saying, this is our nums, and then what we can do is say min equals nums 0 and sex equals nums 1, right? And that should work. Or it keeps giving me a failure. So I'm just, and I'm looking for mins. Okay, that's the reason. Alright. And that works as well. I'm pretty sure I could have done it the other way as well. So I'm going to get rid of all that. And use this the scan method. I like that. It's a little more cleaner looking in my opinion. We use this regular expression, so the /d looks for any digit 0 through 9. The plus says 1 or more times, and we do that to give min and sex as we want, and lo and behold, we get the same value again. Alright, so that's how we deal with that type of stuff. Now we can move on to understanding a little bit more about numbers in Ruby, and this gives us some interesting approaches to handling stuff as well. So let's call this ex5.rb. And so here we are dealing with numbers. So let's say we have a variable num equals 81. Okay, so now numbers, right? Number values, constants are also objects, and so they have all sorts of different methods. So we can say IRB and Control L, and so we can say 6 dot times, 6 dot methods. They give us the methods that are available to us to call, and then you can also go look this up inside of the Ruby API, which is one of the things I'm going to have you guys do as part of your furthering learning before coming to class. But there should be a method called times somewhere in there. But anyway, yes, times right here. And then also there's this method down to times. There's even, odd. These are 2f for float. The GCD, LCM, all these really great math things that we can do. So, you know, real, imaginary, all these great things. So, the integer class has lots of different things that we can do. And so one of the things that we're going to use right now, we're going to use a couple of these. So we can use numbers to control iteration. Think about it like this. Oftentimes you want to do, like, I don't know, a for loop. Well, in Ruby we have a for loop, but it's almost always not necessary to use. So for example, let's think about this. 6 dot times. We give it a block, right? We could give it a variable, but in this case we're not going to use one. So we say puts and interpolate num.class, right? Num's the 81 above, and we say, and then sharp, we'll say num, and then what we're going to do is we'll then multiply num by itself times the equals, just like we can in almost every other language. We can use compound assignment. Say num, and then we end the block, and we'll go ahead and run that, and we see, oh, hello, that'd be 5. And we get, we start at 81, and we just make this giant, huge number. Also, this is an extremely large number. I think it's probably beyond the capability that even Java would be able to show. We probably would have overflowed. I'm not going to get into whether or not what the maximum size of an integer is. I don't really care. Just the fact that we could actually do this 6 times as expected is the only thing I was really concerned about. We can also use a block, as I alluded to earlier, a different form of the block. Instead of using do and end, we could do it a different way. We can say 3.times, and in curly braces, we can then put the thing that we care about. So this would be like, for example, print the letter X, right? And then maybe we want to use a different operation, 1.up to 5, and then in here we're going to use a variable I in vertical bars, and then we want to say print I, and then a space. And then let's say we want to do from 99, and then now we can instead of using the dot, so almost all methods in Ruby can don't have to have a dot following them, so we can use down to 95, and then we can say I again, print I, and then the space. So let's go ahead and run this just to validate that what I'm saying is actually going to work. And then we get a problem. Okay, yes, very good. I was wrong. My bad. Let's just do that. Make it easy. Run this, and so what we should see is right now we have 3 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 99 through 95, separated by spaces. So let's go ahead and finish this off with one last one. We can step. So down to starts from some number and goes down to a given one. Up to starts from some number and the number is called on, up until the number of its argument. Step starts from the number it's called on and then goes to the first argument, up to the first argument by the second argument. So in this case, it'd be stepping up from 50 to 80 by 5. So this should show us 55, 60, 65, and so on until we reach 80. So we print I, followed by a space. And then, of course, we want to print the new line, right? Just puts. All right, just so we have that. Go ahead and run it. And lo and behold, we get what we expected to see. So this is some basics on iteration, and as well as using numbers, and I implore you to explore the rest of those things. But for the rest of this, we're going to move on to some arrays and some other basic data types like hashes, and then we'll get into a little deeper on control, defining methods.